Well, I was going to do a different video today, but a lot of people started asking me about whether or not Marvel is going to be losing characters like Spider-Man and the Avengers due to some of the lawsuits of the creators' families, or heirs as they are calling them. And let me clear this up for you guys. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. I'm your host, Warren, and I don't think we have anything to worry about. Let me put your mind at ease. Now, let's get right down to this because I don't want to drag this out or I don't want it to be confusing for anybody. We'll talk about what it is, and after I'll give my thoughts on it. So basically what has happened here is that there are heirs or family members of Marvel creators like Steve Ditko, the co-creator of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, and Gene Colan, the co-creator of the Falcon and Captain Marvel. Also, Detweiler is the nephew of Don Heck, co-creator of Iron Man and Black Widow, and Detweiler is suing Marvel as well. And there's other family members that are related to the creators of other characters like Black Widow. And basically what has happened here, all of these heirs, all of these family members have filed notices of termination. They filed these notices for the work that their family members did on these characters, and basically what this means is that these family members have told Marvel that you have until this time to use these characters in your movies and then we're done. You can't use them in comic books or movies anymore because we own the rights to the characters. For example, Patrick Ditko, the brother of Steve Ditko, filed a notice of termination and said, in regards to Spider-Man, his termination notice gives Marvel until the end of June of 2023 to use Spider-Man. After that point in time, they can no longer use Spider-Man. And obviously this is where people are starting to get really worried. Marvel could lose some characters here, and people are wondering and worried about Marvel losing Spider-Man. Some of the Avengers, Black Widow, Iron Man, Falcon, Captain Marvel. And I get it, I totally understand everybody's worries. These family members are filing notices of termination to where Marvel can't use these characters anymore. It sounds really scary. However, this isn't the first time that Marvel has dealt with this. Creators and heirs of these creators have done this in the past and were not successful. Let me explain. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about whether or not I believe something is right or wrong here. I'm just going to talk about the facts of law and cases that have happened before in the past. Now, first of all, heirs of creators are allowed to do this. Under the Copyright Act of 1976, heirs are permitted in certain circumstances to terminate the grant of a license or transfer to a copyrighted work such as a comic book via a properly executed notice. And this is what the heirs did. But Marvel has already struck back, and they actually filed a lawsuit on Friday against these family members or heirs of these creators. And here's why you don't really have to worry that much. This type of lawsuit has already happened before. A key case is involving Jack Kirby, who co-created the X-Men, Thor, and Iron Man. And the same thing happened. Jack Kirby's heirs sought to reclaim copyright to his creations, but the federal courts sided with Marvel, finding that the characters were made under work-for-hire arrangements. And due to the work-for-hire arrangement, it claims that the heirs have no valid claim to the copyrights. Basically, what this means is that Marvel said these people created these characters specifically for Marvel while they were hired by Marvel working for Marvel. Therefore, Marvel owns the rights to the characters. They were specifically created for Marvel. They're Marvel's. Basically, if I worked for Apple and came up with some sort of an idea and then Apple sold it, it wouldn't be mine, it would still be Apple's. If I created a new type of iPad, it wouldn't just be mine. I couldn't go off and run my own iPad department. It would still belong to Apple. It's still Apple's product. They still own it. And that's the simplest way to explain it, really. These people's heirs, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, as great as they were, worked for Marvel. Therefore, the work that they did for Marvel belongs to Marvel, including the characters that they created. So this case has literally been done before, and it was probably really scary before. Family members filed a notice of termination saying that Marvel, you have until this date to use these characters and then you no longer can. But Marvel filed a lawsuit back in which they won, and the court of law sided with them, stating that Marvel indeed does own the characters because these people were working for Marvel under hire. It's not like Marvel stole a character from another comic book and claimed it as their own before the other comic book could release it. Marvel literally hired people to create characters for their comics. And it's the exact same thing that is happening here. It is the exact same case. And that's actually what Marvel's lawyer, Daniel Petrocelli, said. He said it's virtually identical circumstances. Family members are suing for character rights that they don't really have. This is why we don't really have to worry that much. Marvel has actually been through this exact same thing before, and they came out on top, and they came out on top pretty easily. The work for hire case is pretty clear, and it's the exact same situation that we're dealing with. It's just more family members coming forward about different characters. But the court sided with them before, and they can actually bring that up as a case argument, and considering the fact that the laws are the same, they should win again, no problem. Meaning the heirs or family members don't have any claims to these characters, meaning they can't terminate the use of any characters, meaning all of these characters are going to be sticking around in comic books and in the MCU. And this actually happened with Superman as well. In 2012, a federal court ruled that Superman co-creator Joe Shuster's sister could not terminate Warner Bros. Copyright grant in the character due to a 1992 agreement between the studio and Shuster's heirs, which prevented them from pursuing termination. Now, this one was a personal agreement between Warner Brothers and the creator, and that's most likely something that happened here with Marvel as well. But again, going to court and stating the work for hire clause kind of settles things right away. They were hired to create a character for DC. They created a character for DC, so the character is DC's. They got paid to do that work. That is what they got paid to do. And again, it's the same thing with all of these heirs as family members who created these characters. They got paid to create the characters for Marvel. So, don't panic. I know a lot of headlines right now are saying that Marvel could lose some of their characters. I know a lot of people are saying that Marvel could lose Spider-Man and the Avengers. It sounds really scary, but if we look at the past and look at what Marvel's done, we can be assured that it's going to happen again and everything's going to be okay. Now, having said all this, I do understand where the heirs of the family members are coming from. And of course, I do think it's important to respect the creators of these characters because without them, we wouldn't have these characters. If we didn't have Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Jim Starlin, and any other of these awesome creators, we wouldn't have these awesome superheroes, and I think we owe them a great thanks for that. I understand where their heirs are coming from completely. If my uncle was Steve Ditko, I would totally want the rights to the character. However, and I can't speak for them, I wouldn't want the character taken out of the MCU or out of a comic book. I'd want the character to live on, but of course I'd want to make some money from it. So I totally get where everybody is coming from. However, the big thing here is that we don't really have to worry about Marvel losing the rights to Spider-Man or any of the other Avengers or other characters, because that's the big concern right now. Since Marvel has won this case in the past, they are most likely going to win it again, especially since they can bring up the previous cases in the past, and not to mention Warner Brothers and DC have gone through this as well, and they ruled in their favor as well. So fortunately for Marvel and for us, the fans, the law is on our side. So we don't really have to worry. But let me know what you think about this whole entire situation in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on all Marvel news, and don't forget to like the video, and for live updates you can always follow me on Instagram and Twitter. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.